My name is Anrike Piel. I'm a photographer and a filmmaker, and tonight I'm going to talk about creating what you love and how to make that relevant with the society that we live in today. I started out being a fashion photographer, but my dreams as a fashion photographer have changed radically. It's my first time speaking in English in front of all you guys, so I'm a little bit nervous. Bear with me, please. I was 16 years old when I left my home country, Estonia, to pursue my dream of becoming this badass fashion photographer. And that was the thing that was always leading me to meet all these wonderful people in all these different countries and cities that I moved to, and as well build a new life in all these new places that I moved to. 2015, Nick Knight, a well-known fashion photographer, he reviewed my work, saying that he can see a lot of beautiful images, he can see that I can do a lot, but he can't see what I love. So while I was concentrating on working on myself as a brand and trying to figure out how to market myself and find the clients, I was also getting more conscious about the work that I create. So I was more pickier with the projects that I choose to get involved with and what I put in my portfolio. So working on that very hard, I had another portfolio review 2 years later with a talent agent in New York who said that he can see a lot of beautiful images, he can see that I can do a lot, but he can't see what I love, which you can imagine was very frustrating. So what does it mean to grow as an artist? I'm quite sure that you guys can relate that being an artist is quite a self-centered profession, because in the end of the day, what you create, it starts from here or here. It's a vision that you have that you eventually make into a reality. And in my case, there is no line between personal or professional life. Who I am is what I do, and what I do is who I am. Being a 16-year-old girl who left a small country, Estonia, and went to this big city, dived into this grown-up world, it wasn't easy. And I mean, thinking back to it now, it feels like this grown-up world was filled with deception. Because was it personal-wise or professional life-wise? But I learned to take all these life events that come as struggling to figure out this artist world as lessons and blessings. So I didn't let anyone else's behavior or mistakes in the industry and personal life to pull me down in any way. So I took a lesson, I learned from it, and I let it go. And now I get a little bit more personal. This is something that I haven't shared with a full room full of strangers before, but it was a very changing moment in my life. Nearly 2 years ago, I was raped. And this time around, these lessons and blessings, that it didn't make much sense anymore. My technique didn't work. Because what are the lessons in it? Don't dress a certain way. Don't go out at certain times. Don't trust men. No, that's not the lesson. I felt a lot of shame. I felt a lot of self-blame, guilt, and I didn't speak to it about it to anyone until eventually when I told a friend about it and shockingly find out that 8 months before she had been raped as well, and she didn't speak about it to anyone because of the same emotions of self-blame and shame. I became this girl that goes into gatherings, gets my girlfriends a little tipsy and starts talking about rape to find out if they have some experience with it. Unfortunately, I found out that a lot of the girls that I really love and admire have experienced the same thing, and because of the same emotions, they didn't speak about it before either. And I'm very grateful that the Me Too movement has now educating women knowing that these mistakes that other men do are not on them. So as my lessons and plastics technique didn't work, I understood things that should be taught instead. And as creating art is a very self-centered thing, it didn't work for me anymore. It didn't work to create for myself anymore. I wanted to start creating for others. So a few months after the rape experience, a great friend of mine from New York, Anna, called me up saying that she's going to go to Lebanon to volunteer in a refugee camp and asked me if I want to go with. So a month later, I was in Lebanon volunteering, and my main job over there was to teach over 90 students of mine, women and teenage girls, English. And besides that, I wanted to give these girls what creative expression has given me. It has given me a sense of self-love. It has given me a sense of appreciating who I am as a person, and it has always led me on all these journeys that I went on as a young girl. So I created a program, a creative expression program, the way I know how, through fashion photography. And I made an open goal to designers to send me their donations, and within 2 weeks, over 30 European designers sent me their designs. Some of them sent me half of their collections even. This is what my apartment looked like before I departed. So once I got to Lebanon, I was introduced to this wonderful lady. Her name is Fida Alver. She is an artist. She is a teacher, and she is a Syrian refugee who fled her home because of the war. I chose these photos of her quite intentionally because over here you can see her standing in front of her old home that she grew up in, that is no longer there. And on the left side, you can see her posing in front of a plant that her mother planted after her first brother was killed by war. So together with Fida, we taught over 60 girls who were divided into 4 groups. Oh, this is Fida's art, by the way. And here's another one that she painted after the chemical attack in Duma, just recently. So we were teaching the young girls creative expression. And there was many different classes, and throughout 2 months, we focused on developing their own individual ideas and tastes. You can see a little more over here. So I created this awesome fancy PDF saying how I want to empower these young girls and encourage them to be more confident and all that stuff. But in the end of the day, I had no idea what I'm doing, because I was a fashion photographer who suddenly decided that I'm going to be a teacher now. I didn't even finish high school. So what did I know about teaching anyone? One thing that you should know about these girls is that each one of them has lost a family member. Each one of them has lost a friend. Each one of them has lost a home. Each one of them lost their home, and each day they hope that they can go back home. Each day they hold on to this hope with all their strength, and I pray to all the gods in the world that they will never lose this hope. Here they are again. And this is Shatila. This is the camp that they live in. It lies in less than 1 square kilometer, and today there's over 40,000 people that they share this little space with. This is another part of Shatila. And this is our little studio that we created in our classroom. There was loads of restrictions and obstacles doing this program because I mean, a lot of these families are quite conservative, and this is a quite Western way to approach creativity. But then the day that they actually came to the school and saw all these clothes hanging around the room, their eyes just lit up. They were so excited. There was so much laughter in the room. And for that day, they were free to be just girls. They didn't have to think about all of the stuff that they have experienced in the last years and all of the things that they still have to deal with, because the grief is not going anywhere. So that after 2 months, I had to leave Lebanon, and I was heartbroken. My heart broke into a million pieces, and each one of these pieces is still in Lebanon. Because in the end of the day, I was coming back to our paradise world. And these girls are still there. And nothing has changed. It's only getting worse and worse every second. The goal for this program is to make it into an exhibition. And I have never organized an exhibition before. I've never organized a fundraising before. All I've done is creating fashion photographs and submitted them to magazines, and then maybe doing some campaigns of blonde girls in a white background and showing this work as beautiful piece of nothing. So I was heartbroken. You can imagine that I had a lot of things that I have to process, and I was quite lost. I was really depressed. And nevertheless, I got myself up. I put the ball rolling. I worked on figuring how to make this exhibition happen and how to fundraise and how to actually give back to these girls. And I ran against the brick wall all the time. I mean, I've been running against the brick wall since I was 16, so that wasn't anything new to me. But yeah, and meanwhile, I was still trying to figure out myself as an artist, as this fashion photographer, figuring out this goal that I had of becoming this badass fashion photographer, shooting the covers of Vogue Italia, which I would still love to do. But this goal itself, it felt really small, really tiny, considering the world that we live in today. And it was tough. The past year has been one of the toughest years in my whole entire life, because I left Estonia, I left my home, I left my family when I was 16, and sacrificed all of this life to become a badass fashion photographer. And I couldn't care less about this dream, because that meant so tiny. It didn't mean anything. Today, I reached this point where I still don't know what the next month will bring, but constantly forcing myself to have faith in myself and the things that I do and my capabilities, and constantly telling myself that one day all this nonsense will make sense, has gotten me to this point where I have a lot of support around me. And I have a curator who's helping me make all these exhibitions happen. And I have a goal of raising awareness to all these over 300,000 Syrian girls in Lebanon, Syrian youth in Lebanon, that are missing out on all education and support and living in these slums. So I want to show you a little clip about the exhibition that I'm working on. I just put it together yesterday, so don't expect too much.
Nowhere me over land and sea. Ran from my home so I can be free over land and sea. So
Hi Miss Anna, I love you. Anrike, I love you. Anrike, I love you.
I love you.
Nano, I love you. Nano, I love you. Oh man.
We are old souls, protectors of the earth, guardians of children, worshippers of the moon, mermaids of the ocean. We are followers of the sun and women of magic. And we live in harmony amongst ourselves and protect each other at all costs.
الله أكبر.
So I didn't come here today to tell you fun stories about how it's exciting and crazy to be a freelancer artist or however we call ourselves. I went to many meetings since I got back with other creatives to figure out new projects that we deal with, and oftentimes I've been told that the ideas that I have today are too sensitive. Unfortunately, the world that we live in today is fucked up. And I think we can either decide to, we can decide. We here have a choice. We can decide what we're gonna do with our lives. We can decide who we want to become. We can decide that we want to produce to masses, produce stuff that is gonna be a beautiful nothing and it's gonna fade and no one will care about it ever again. Or we do what we can do today and be responsible for, have a responsibility as artists to stand for something, to create something that has meaning, and perhaps even give voice to the voiceless. Thank you very much.